Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unscaled Travel Show. So glad that you're here. Thanks for joining us. As always, you can find us at unscaledtravelshow.com for all of our past episodes and interviews. We are coming to you from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm Jeremy Long, and with my co-host, as always, Amy.
Hi.
In today's episode, we are talking about and really focusing on exploring the causes, effects, and solutions to this growing problem we call over-tourism.
Right. It's something we've mentioned before, but I keep hearing more and more about it to the point that there in the U.S. is now a Progressive insurance commercial that pokes fun at over-tourism and how social media has played an impact on it. So it just seems fitting to chat a little bit more about it in depth.
Yeah, and it seems, especially these last couple of years, over-tourism has really come into focus. And I don't know, and we're going to kind of look at why that is. But like you mentioned, I mean, even mainstream media, marketing and everything is starting to, right or wrong, poke fun at the idea of influencers and how much they're affecting tourism and these kind of things. You know, and is it right to only blame influencers or to pass off that blame on them? Or is it a little, like most things, a little bit of blame for everyone all around?
Yeah, I think travel has just become more accessible to people. There's more ways to get around. People have more money to spend on things like that. And I think a lot of people have realized that life should be about experiences and not material items. So they're translating that into let me go see the world.
Sure.
Saying that, when you want to go see the world and you don't know where you want to start, a lot of people will look at social media, what's popular or what's something beautiful, and they're getting their inspiration from there. So I think it's a number of issues that all come into play. But when you suddenly see, just for instance, 10 different people all posting from the very same place in 1 week, suddenly everybody's talking about that place and it's like, what's going on? And then you see a spike in tourism to that place. So obviously the marketing departments are doing a fantastic job getting people there, but maybe other people in the city or the location are not quite on board with having that high influx of tourists.
Well, let's kind of start. I mean, you get a lot of great points here. Let's kind of start at the beginning. Like, what is over-tourism? And what kind of defines it? And it is as simple as overcrowding, an excess of tourists resulting kind of in these conflicts that we're seeing now between tourists and locals who live in these places that people visit. And I know the term like too many is subjective. It's subjective to the location. It's subjective to a number of different factors, but we're going to just look at too many people in not enough space using up limited and finite resources.
Right. That
kind of thing. And the first question that always pops up in people's minds is, don't a lot of these economies, especially when you get to the micro local levels, don't they run and exist on tourism?
Right. I mean, we live in a city that is built on tourism, but our city is a little bit different. That is the main industry here. We, as a city, do not survive, or we didn't until recently, without tourism dollars. Whereas a lot of other popular tourist locations have other things going for them, and tourism is just an aspect of it.
Yeah. And you bring up a really valid point there. I mean, we come to you every single week from Las Vegas, and a question might be, well, aren't you being a little hypocritical here? You come from Las Vegas. I mean, our economy is largely based on the fact that almost 60 million people visit Las Vegas year over year, and that number is growing. But Vegas, to a point, is built differently. At least since the 1930s, we have aimed at tourism.
Right.
The city really exists to placate people's sins. I guess that's why they call it Sin City, right? It's mostly centered though around one or two areas in the city, in a city that is surprisingly well spread out. Like where we live, we're about 20 to 25 minutes away from the Strip. If we open our front door and tourists are in our neighborhood, something has gone wrong for them.
Right. They're not supposed to be over
No.
here.
And there might be one or two times of the year, like, because we live pretty close to the Orchard, there might be one or two times a year where people are up near our neighborhood and it gets a little crowded, or you can feel there's a change because there's a lot of people there. But it's so much different than places like Sicily or Barcelona or, you know, these kind of areas where people are literally sometimes standing in your front doorway trying to take a picture, maybe because you have a cute door and some flowers and things like that. It's a totally different feel.
Weren't you telling me a story about seeing someone who lived in London in one of their...
In Notting Hill.
In Notting Hill, yes. Yeah. And opened their front door and there was someone taking pictures right there on their porch.
Yeah. Like there was a, you know, wannabe influencer or maybe someone who was just on Instagram or whatever trying to get cute photos in front of a door. On surface level, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's private property though, right?
But when the dude opened the door and he was like, "Can I help you?" They were almost offended that the person was home and interrupting their photo shoot, which is kind of one of the main problems.
The arrogance of people.
And I say it all, the arrogance of some people.
The audacity.
The audacity that these people would be home during my Instagram photo shoot for all 200 of my followers is just, you know, I mean, it's one of those problems. But even in places like Las Vegas, you're starting to see pushback.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, real quick, we have gotten a Formula One race. It's a stop here. And they've kind of taken over the city for almost 6 months at a time for like a 3-day race.
Right.
And local businesses have missed out on so much money during those weekends that they were promised, oh, this is going to boost your money. This is going to boost your bottom line. They missed out on it. Only the corporate casino owners got the money.
Right.
And now they're suing Formula One and the city.
I know.
For false promises and basically lies.
I know people who are servers at restaurants in casinos on the Strip who were sent home every single day of the week that Formula One was here because nobody was coming into their restaurants and casinos because the Formula One had blocked it off because you had to have a pass to get inside certain gates. And if their hotels were inside those gates, you couldn't get there. They had no business. So it does start affecting local people's pocketbooks, I guess you could say. When
a lot of them are, especially like you mentioned, tip-based. You have servers, you have waiters, even our blackjack dealers and things like that. A large part of them, you know, a source of their income are tips from customers.
Right.
And if you're spending $1,500 for the weekend to get into the race, to just see the cars and stuff like that, it's not necessarily turning into gambling and food and everything else because, you know, you're catering to a certain type of person at that point.
Yeah.
And why is it a growing problem? But, you know, these tourism dollars that can create and boost local economies, they often create a range of issues that outweigh or begin to outweigh those economical benefits. You're talking about strain on local infrastructures, environmental damage, loss of cultural authenticity, which I think is a big, big thing.
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
And we're going to get into it as far as that. But even just the rising cost for locals where they live, you're starting to see a major pushback against brands and organizations such as Airbnb.
Yeah.
For what they're doing to housing prices.
Happening in Barcelona. It's all over the news.
Yeah, it's everywhere. And we're going to highlight some destinations. We are going to look at some real life cause and effect. And later on in the show, what we can do to combat it and be responsible tourists. All right? It's the Unscaled Travel Show. Keep it right here. We're going to be back right after this.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long here with my co-host, Amy.
Hi.
We're coming to you from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. Thank you so much to Trent and Lisa Keenan, always supporting us in everything that we do here. We are talking about the real life problem of over-tourism. What we can do, identifying it, number one, and what we can do to combat it and do our part to be good world citizens, basically.
Good travelers.
Good travelers. Good, faithful travelers there. We're talking about over-tourism here, but over-tourism, even though it's gotten another spike in how we see it and how we view it and the attention being brought on it, it's, unfortunately nothing new.
Right.
Over-tourism has been around for quite some time. And it's not only exotic locations that can experience over-tourism.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we like to go to national parks here in the United States, and a lot of national parks here have started a reservation system. So you can't just go up to the gate and go in. You have to book a time, and it's a timed entry so that they don't have just a flood of people all coming in at 8:00 in the morning. It kind of keeps the flow throughout the day, and it stops have so many people being there at one time.
Yeah, which a lot of people, the pushback on that is oftentimes, well, I mean, that's not fair. I got 2 weeks of vacation a year, especially if you're in the U.S. I got 2 weeks of vacation a year, and by God, I want to go where I want to go. It's the American way, right? And a lot of people might think it started during the COVID-19 pandemic and a situation like that, but it was actually around long before that. It was just heightened and started to be tightly enforced since that time.
Yeah.
And you can go to places like Zion National Park, Grand Canyon, any of these places. I know one that I experienced firsthand was Arches National Park in Utah. My friend John and I went on a road trip. We went there and we had a time, and we were maybe an hour ahead, and we had just driven in. And I think our timed entry was for like 1:00, and they were strict. They were like, you cannot come in early. And you don't be here at 12:45. Come here at 1. You'll be sitting out in line, in your car or whatever until then. So we just, pivoted and went somewhere else, but they're very strict about it. You see it a lot in the United States in places like Hawaii. You're starting to hear it more. You're starting to feel the pushback more from locals. And even places like Orlando in Florida. Orlando is basically Disney World now. I mean, that's the entire city is just Orlando. And normal, everyday local people are like, live where? The rent is too high. The homes are too expensive. You can't.
Because corporations are buying houses.
Because corporations are buying properties.
Renting them out, yeah.
And other people that do have the money, and I'm not going to fault people for having money. It's not that type of show, right? But they sell their homes to these corporations that are bidding top dollar, or they turn it into an Airbnb. It just becomes another rental property that they never see, that they never live in.
Right.
That gets charged, these exorbitant prices and everything. But it's not the only cause. Accessibility and affordability. You mentioned it earlier, and I think that's a really good point. I don't think we've ever had a cheaper time to travel.
The world.
World.
Yeah.
In maybe modern history.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both have different apps and subscriptions that will tell us if, a flight to a certain location is under a threshold because, we want a good deal on a flight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have this, and it's like, oh, a flight to the other side of the world for less than $500. That's a steal. You gotta go. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody now, like I said earlier, you want to make these memories. So it's like, yeah, let's get on a plane and let's go to Bali. Let's go to, Zurich. And then suddenly you're traveling, and maybe it's not something you would have done had that cheap ticket not popped up on your computer screen in the middle of a really terrible work day.
And we were looking, yeah, right. Oh my God, my boss is making me want to live somewhere else. And budget airlines, have been around for a while. It's nothing new, but they used to bring you from,
they were more regional.
Regionalized budget travel. But now, like you said, you can go from Vegas to London And I saw a deal the other day for, I think it was like $199 one way, which is absurdly cheap.
That is.
You know, especially for budget travelers, budget airlines, low cost accommodation options. And then there's something else that doesn't really get brought up too much, but these newly emerged economies in countries like China, India, you know, these countries, and I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying a fact. They have these newly emerged economies that have created a middle class group of travelers that have disposable incomes, which is often what you need, right? And they're only copying what Americans have been doing for decades. The middle class has disposable income and they want to travel, right?
Yeah.
I got 2 weeks off a year and I want to go. And no longer is it like you put the family in the Studebaker and you travel to the Grand Canyon. And
you might.
You stay a while.
Right.
But now it's like, hey, for the family vacation this week, we're going to go to Iceland.
Right.
And we're going to go backpack around through Iceland or something like that. So there is no one person or place or thing to blame. It is just a cornucopia. If you want to use that
word. That's a $5 word.
I saw your eyes get big. Cornucopia of things. And, you know, we kind of talked earlier, like, why does it seem like it's being brought to our attention now? Why is it being kind of shoved in our face? One of the things that I think, and I've noticed, social media platforms.
Absolutely.
Algorithms listen to you. Your phone listens to you all the time. So you start seeing, if you are in the travel sphere at all, if you're looking at beautiful places or whatever, at least local stuff gets brought to your attention. Mm-hmm. And then other parts, you mentioned Spain earlier.
Yeah.
And the last couple of travel seasons, Spanish locals, especially around places like Barcelona, Madrid, have started pushing back to the point where they have tourist fatigue because they're starting to strike out against locals right now in a friendly way. They're spraying them with water guns and things like that. But if it keeps going down this path, I'm afraid it might turn more physical toward tourists, which gives you certain hesitancies about visiting.
Well, and then my question here, and this is a genuine question. So if tourists decide not to go to these locations, what does that mean for the economy there? I don't know enough about Barcelona or Madrid to know what their main source of income is in that area, but I would think hospitality and tourism plays a factor into it. So if people decide it's not safe to go to this place, what do the cities still thrive? I don't know.
Yeah, it is definitely a balancing act between, you know, curating your life to have these dollars and what it means for local economies and things like that. And what can your actual resources, even with those dollars, handle? You know, what amount of people? It's a good question. It's a fair question. And it's one we're going to try to answer just a little bit. We're going to look at what do local places do about this. It's the Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, your host. Remember, folks, for all of our past episodes and interviews, you can find us at unscaledtravelshow.com. We really appreciate you guys finding us online, leaving all your comments, and sending us emails about your favorite travels. Lets us know that somebody's listening, right? Okay, yeah. Our guest today is Adeline Kuroki. She is the owner of Savor and Soak Travel Company, where she's turned her passion for travel and all things Japan into helping to build her clients custom Japan itineraries that give them true connected moments with the people and the culture around them. Adeline, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. Glad to be here.
First off, let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about Savor and Soak and the services that you provide your clients.
Yeah, so like you said, I work with clients, and a lot of it's clients who have traveled independently in the past, who know how much planning and research goes into an amazing trip. So it's a really collaborative process how I work with my clients to really put together something based on their budget, interests, what they like to do, get them off the beaten path in Japan so that they can have a really amazing experience.
You know, it seems like the last few years, at least, especially when we came out of COVID, the thought and the term of over tourism has really kind of been pushed to the forefront of travel these days. Why do you think it's become such a pressing issue in a lot of these popular destinations?
I'm not sure exactly why, but it definitely has been coming out of COVID. It's everyone wants to travel. And Japan definitely has been a really popular destination the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Japan was really closed for a while. And just in the past couple of years has started reopening and has seen just incredible surges in numbers of inbound tourists.
Now, speaking specifically of Japan, since that's where you kind of focus your time and your energy, uh, can you tell us some of the maybe the visible effects of over tourism on the local communities there?
Yeah, so I think, the probably the most obvious one is really kind of stretching the local transit systems. So of course, Japan is famous for their bullet trains, but they have a really amazing just local transit network everywhere. Their subways, their local buses, their local trains. And this is definitely somewhere where you see, for example, in Kyoto, their bus service just being incredibly overstretched with tourists coming and also people coming, from the train station to their hotel and bringing these giant suitcases on the bus, taking up space that other, passengers would have used. And so, yeah, I think that's probably the most obvious one. But there's definitely a lot of ways that uh, the increase in travelers has really impacted, I think, the travelers' experience and the experience of locals living in these places that are very popular.
I know it's not a super popular subject to talk about. It's not fun. It's not like inspirational and everything, but it is something that travelers need to be aware of. So when we're looking at tourism, how does that really begin to affect the quality of life for local residents and, stretching those resources and having those transportation needs kind of stretched to the brink of breaking there? And what does that do to the overall visitor experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's doing a disservice to the locals and to the visitors, both of them, to be honest. I think, for people living in Kyoto, it can be a really frustrating experience somewhere that, maybe they've grown up, they've lived all their lives, their ancestors have lived, and it's just so different today than it was even 10 years ago. So I know there has been in the news recently about, visitors being banned from certain streets in Gion in the Geisha district. So that was a new measure as of this year that definitely people, a lot of people were upset about. Um, but kind of on the other hand, I think, Kyoto kind of needed to do something. And that's the thing that they decided to try, and they're going to see how it goes and then kind of reevaluate. But I think, for travelers as well, when I work with my clients and, again, it's not something that's exciting or inspirational, but I'm like, how do you feel about crowds? How do you feel about really busy places? And having a really honest talk with them, like, hey, I don't think that going to some of these really popular places in Kyoto is going to be the experience that you want. And these places are popular for a reason. Kyoto is amazing, but there are so many other places outside of these popular places, even in the city of Kyoto, but definitely in other places as well, um, that are going to give you an amazing experience where you can really immerse yourself without being, surrounded by all of humanity.
Now, you have this company, Savor and Soak, and you build custom itineraries for people that are traveling to Japan. As a business owner who works in that travel industry, what do you feel about it? What do you feel your responsibilities are to both your clients and to the country that you ultimately send these folks to?
Yeah, I think it's a huge responsibility. And especially someone who is, so like we talked about earlier, my husband is Japanese, but I am not Japanese. And that is something actually, so I've worked in the travel industry for a long time. But when I was starting my own business and I was almost kind of grappling ethically, I'm like, is it okay for me as an American to be sending these people to Japan? And how can I do this in a way that is ethical, sustainable, going to be a good experience for everybody? So that's something I definitely have top of mind always. And, like I mentioned, I do definitely have straight up conversations with my clients like, hey, if you don't like crowds, don't go here. I talk people out of things a lot. But I also love to talk to them and say like, hey, you're really interested in, traditional crafts, or you're interested in hiking or whatever it is. And like, let me tell you about this place in Japan that is absolutely amazing and no one is there. And I will bring you an English speaking guide and you will go there and it'll be the best experience of your life. So that's something that I really love to do as well.
We have mentioned a couple of times about the concepts of responsible travel and slow travel really within the last decade or so becoming a conscious moment for travelers that are getting out and seeing more of the world. Is this, in your own opinion here, is this part of the solution to over tourism? And, what else can people do to really contribute in their own way to being a more responsible and sustainable travel partner?
Yeah, I think kind of slow, sustainable travel. I think that movement is really great. And I've got a couple clients coming up who they're going to stay for, a week at a time in these different destinations. And something really great that Japan has done is convert some old different warehouses buildings into machiya. So it's the word for these old townhouses, and they've converted it into these like machiya stays where you stay in an old townhouse, usually in the center of the city or in the center of the town. And I think that's really cool, especially specifically for Japan, where for not everyone, but for a lot of Japanese locals, they don't want to live in houses like that. They want to live in a really modern apartment above a 7-Eleven. Like that is the goal. And so for kind of travelers who are wanting to come in and stay in a more traditional accommodation, I think this is perfect. It's a great way to use those spaces that weren't being utilized for travelers to come in for longer term stays. So I think that's amazing. But also, I think when you slow down and you travel like that, you're interacting more with the locals, right? You have a kitchen, so you're going out to a local shop and getting groceries. You're figuring out, what do the locals eat? What is their life like here? So I think for the people who have the time to do that, I think it's amazing.
Well, Adeline, thank you so much for your insight and for your time. If people want to find you online, check out your services, or follow along on social media, how can they find you?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at Savor and Soak and savorandsoak.com.
There you go. Be a more responsible traveler and travel with purpose with your acts of tourism, right? There you go. Keep it right here. Yep. It's the Unscaled Travel Show. We'll be right back.
Unscaled Travel Show is brought to you by Diamondback Land Surveying. For all your land surveying needs, contact Diamondback Land Surveying at 702-823-DBLS.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unscaled Travel Show. I'm Jeremy Long, your host, here with my co-explorer, Amy.
Hi.
We're coming to you from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada in the Diamondback Land Surveying Studios. We are talking about the cause and effect and ways to combat over-tourism. It's not a popular subject, but it is a subject that's really at the forefront of a lot of travel discussion right now. And if you are an avid traveler and you care about travel and how it affects your life, think about how it affects other people's lives as well. That's part of being a responsible traveler.
Well, and something else, even if you're not a frequent traveler, it's still something to think about, because we've had some people comment to us that they don't travel a lot, but they've gone somewhere and it's been so crowded, or, they couldn't get tickets for what they wanted to. And it's like asking us, how do you juggle that? And part of that problem is going to really popular places in peak season. So you kind of have to do a little bit of research too before you select a destination.
We've talked a lot about the cause and effect. So now how are we and how are some places combating and facing over-tourism? I think combating might be a little bit of an aggressive term, but it's an aggressive problem that if it's been unchecked for a long time in a lot of areas. So that kind of opens you up to, like, if we don't get a handle on this now, once Pandora's box is kind of open, it's left to local governments that are kind of overwhelmed at this point, at this level.
I think, and you mentioned Airbnb earlier, I think a lot of destinations, they felt they had a good balancing act, as you used that phrase earlier, of, we have this many hotels in our city and this many hotel rooms, so we're able to accommodate that. But then once Airbnb and VRBO and these vacation rental places started happening and becoming more familiar, that did draw in a whole, like, the number of tourists in the city at one time expanded. And that's what a lot of these places were not prepared for. Yeah. So now I think, as you said, there's starting to be pushback on having those types of vacation rentals in certain neighborhoods, in certain cities. Some cities are not even allowing it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and that's for each city and destination to determine for themselves. But some different things that places around the world are doing. First off, taxes and fees. Places such as Venice. Venice recently launched an entry fee for tourists that, they all want to go there. We all want to see the canals. It's kind of one of those places that you dream of as you start beginning your journeys around the world and everything. But they've started placing taxes and fees, which taxes and fees, room fees, things like that, are nothing new here in Vegas.
Right.
We use it a lot to build infrastructure. We use it a lot to build stadiums and other things that draw more and give more money to the city and county and things like that. So, and then there are places like Osaka and different areas that are starting to think about that as well. And these taxes aren't huge burdens on the traveler themselves, but it will help the communities to raise more money to provide better trash pickup, to buy, provide things like that normally wouldn't be at the forefront of your mindset.
Right. I mean, we've been a few places where there was a tax, I guess, on our hotel room or something, and you just factor it into the cost of the room because that that's part of just traveling. But I think for a lot of places it is new, and not the problem, but maybe the part that is a little bit of an issue is that there's not complete transparency always on how much it's going to cost to stay somewhere in a hotel room or how much your ticket's going to cost until you get right to the very end and you push that pay button. So I think it's totally fine to charge fees and taxes, but I think every place that it's going to do that, they need to be more upfront with what's the total cost going to be. Right.
Also, Venice has, along with Amsterdam, they've started outright banning things such as the number of cruise ships that they allow into their ports and to visit their places. I was going to say ports, but to visit at any one time, limiting the number of tourists that get to get off the boats and start flooding their cities for a very short amount of time. They're hopping off the ship and spending 6 hours in a city and trying to see everything they can all at once, and it's really hurting the economy more than it's helping it. They've also, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, national parks here in the United States, and now places like in France and different areas have started setting limits through reservation systems. You can't come in because we're only allowing X amount of people to come in. And then blocked views. Japan has gone through an extreme length of literally erecting view obstructors almost like fences and things like that in these popular places that influencers and social media has made popular for like shots of Mount Fuji. There was one in one of the areas that we were really close to that we didn't quite visit, but it was in that same area. On one of our day trips from Tokyo, that has I think it was like a convenience store. There were people lining up for hours to take one shot at this convenience store of Mount Fuji in the background because of the aesthetics that come with the picture and everything. So now Japan has completely blocked it off. Like, you can't come here anymore. You got to disperse because people weren't even visiting the store. They were just...
Oh, wow.
And it's a very tiny road. People getting in the streets, getting in the way of traffic, crossing not at the crosswalks, almost getting hit. You can see how that stuff starts to add up.
I mean, we did see that in Miyajima when you had to pay to get into the shrine to take the picture of the Otori water gate. You could still take a picture from the side, but it wasn't the like straight on view, which the shrine is making money. But is it still actively being a shrine when you have 300 people standing in line through the middle of your shrine just to take a photo?
Cultural authenticity.
Exactly. I think at some point the people running these venues, for lack of a better word, has to decide, do we want to make money or do we want to preserve what's here? And it sounds like in this particular convenience store decided they want community has decided they want to preserve their community the way it is, as opposed to having thousands of tourists a day standing in line to take a picture.
You mentioned marketing earlier as well, which was a great point because there have been marketing changes, which is a big deal. Marketing campaigns are now starting to encourage travelers to see other places rather than the most popular stops. And I keep bringing up France because it is a big deal in France, and you're starting to see a lot of pushback there too. But 80% of France's 37 million annual visitors see 20% of the country. You're talking Paris, the Eiffel Tower, all of that stuff. And a large portion of the country gets kind of glossed over. People don't stop at it. Why? Because, even though they say things like, oh, I want to see the off the beaten path places, they don't really want to see the off the beaten path places.
Well, but I think part of that is how easy is it to get to the off the path, obviously. But like as a tourist, I may not have a car with me. And once I get there, we found this out when we were in Japan. We went during non-peak season. We went to a small town. Everything was closed. Like there was nowhere to eat. We didn't eat all day except for the snacks I had in my bag. So like we're happy to go away from the main touristy areas, but we were a little caught by surprise at the lack of options for us. So I think a lot of people,
part of it.
That is part of it, but I think a lot of people are not quite as adventurous.
They don't want to figure it out.
Right.
What we did is we figured it out. They don't want to figure it out. They want to be catered to. And there's a difference. So that kind of brings me to how do you combat it yourself? Because if you're thinking, hey, it's just me, how much damage am I doing? Here's what you can do. Okay. Spend as much cash locally as you possibly can. Don't hit the chain places. And it's not just like, me talking about don't hit the chain restaurants. Local businesses, mom and pop shops depend on your dollars. Visit them as much as possible. Another point, the point being, why go to Spain to eat at McDonald's? You know what I'm saying?
Unless you have little kids with you, which we completely understand.
No. Even them, make them eat squid. I made my kids eat octopus in Japan. So being a part of the established local community rather than just a consumer of it. Again, that kind of goes back to what we were just saying. Figure it out. Don't just expect to be catered to 100% of the time that you're there.
Right.
You're going to have to do some research to get to some of these places. Visit the off the beaten path places.
And sometimes that is still in the major city, but it's not always going to those super popular landmark locations.
Do your part. We can combat this and we can be better travelers. And of course, you can still save some money, travel during off-peak times, right?
Yeah.
It's all that and more. It's the Unscaled Travel Show. We will see you guys next time.